Hello, big update today, you'll love to see it. I'm here to showcase the new content, highlight the most impactful changes, and then we'll talk about them. We have two new maps, Shoot House 6v6 with its own 24/7 playlist, and Krovnik Farmland for Ground War. Shoot House is quite small, as it kinda sounds. It was originally data mined as being a gunfight map, but it does seem a little larger than the other ones, and they said, hey, make it 6v6, and I'm very glad they did. Krovnik Farmland is the opposite, being a Ground War map, and it is another section of the Verdansk Spec Ops map. As its name suggests, it is by far the flattest, no high rises to get in the way, not much verticality. I really like it. It is maybe the most viable SMG ground war map, tons of buildings through the middle that you can flank through, and also some very open lanes around the side. Cool stuff. The hardpoint game mode is also back. Some general improvements that are all good to see. Sprint and Tactical Sprint got a 5% buff to get us back to the beta levels, a good help for the run and gun, and I found it interesting that it was actually a bug that firing a suppressed weapon would temporarily disable the Ghost perk and could show you on a UAV sweep. No more of that. With Ghost and a suppressor, you are hidden. Ground War tack insert bug fix as well. Yeah, that was obnoxious if you've ever been trapped in the enemy base by that bug. Interestingly, they did not mention it in these patch notes, but I found that the Ground War tank pointsman cheese is finally dead. Thank God. Your point rates are cut to about a quarter when in a tank. Maybe that means that the tank nuke thing is also dead. They said they fixed that in a previous update, and it didn't appear to be actually fixed. Hopefully it is now. As for some bigger individual changes, Riot Shield throwing knife nerf, same for Thermite. The shield was protecting you way too much when throwing those. Claymores, gee, you guys think Claymores needed some attention? The trigger and damage radius is toned down to better match the lasers, so you can shoot it from behind or the side like in the past and you're completely safe. You practically have to touch the lasers to trigger it and die. That also means you can sprint jump by them much more effectively. Also, no matter where you are, if you shoot the Claymore to blow it up, instead of it triggering, it can't kill you from full. Hallelujah, Claymores are actually reasonable now. Battle chatter, hostile over there. Enemies will no longer hear any of that, and you don't even hear yourself give callouts. You only hear callouts from teammates, and the callouts are much more conservative and reasonable. No more boot being spotted under a car across the map. A small mounting recoil nerf, an EOD buff, you will always live a single boom, more lighting improvements in dark areas, and for footsteps, increasing the occlusion percentage. It didn't do much the first time, it helps with the volume through walls. This does seem like another more minor change, but they did promise bigger footstep changes coming in a future update to make ADS walking and crouching noise much quieter. Challenges and progression fixes, what I love to see, except we didn't get much here. Daily challenges and missions are getting a full sweep of testing, which is good. I wish that was standard before launch. It usually seems like the testing is not very thorough, but we'll be seeing changes in future updates, which is good. Not much right now. A few good fixes though. My guns display their weapon level and XP again, at least for now, but camos still don't show their progress. Don't worry though, like always, they are still tracking and unlocking. It's just a visual bug. Launcher killstreak destroys do give weapon XP now, and maybe the best thing here, the kills after reload camo challenge doesn't suck major butt now. You've got a better time window to get that kill after reload. Since the challenges don't display progress though, it's near impossible for me to actually test that time window before and after. I'm just glad to see that they knew that was a painful challenge and that they made it better, I hope. Weapons. I am not the weapon tester god, so I don't have all the befores and afters, but some very welcome changes all around. Obviously, the 725 had to get hit, but it is not at all dead. It is still very good. The range is lower, but still bonkers. I had to give it a go on Shoot House. Forgive me for I have sinned. The 725 is alive and well, but I'm glad they are at least stepping it down bit by bit until things get more balanced out. If they nuked it into oblivion, I think the R9 shotgun would just take its place. And same for the M4, still a beast, just not as much at long range. And actually that same long range damage nerf got applied to all the automatic 5.56 rifles. There were also some SMG buffs though to help them keep up, LMG nerfs, pistol buffs, and they completely disabled the effect crouching and going prone had on recoil. There was a bug where guns would randomly either get better or worse when you crouched or went prone depending on the weapon, so maybe they'll fix that bug at some point and add this back, but for now your recoil is the exact same regardless of stance. Special Ops, big stuff here, many much needed fixes I won't read out, But one, there's a new feature where you can pick up intel in the operations, explore to find some lore. Cool, I'm down. And two, they said XP adjustments. You know I had to check that out because I desperately want it to feel fun and worthwhile to grind some Spec Ops. I tried it out before and after the server-side playlist update, which is when it changed. It still says 10 XP per kill, but I'm really only interested in the weapon XP, and that appeared to be up from 5 weapon XP per kill to 24, nearly 5 times higher, which is roughly what it needed to be to match multiplayer. So Spec Ops is looking like a viable way to rank up crappy guns now. Epic. But I would say it definitely doesn't overtake multiplayer, and it shouldn't. It isn't like you have to play it if you don't want to, especially with Shoot House now making things even faster on the multiplayer side. So I'm down to do a more in-depth XP breakdown on that to compare the new Spec Ops rates to Shoot House. So that is the lowdown on the update. Opinion time. Having Shoot House is what I'm most excited about, and I was worried they would just add it to the map pool, where it isn't like I can search for what maps I want to play. We still can't even vote, which is a complex feature, I'm sure. I'm not expecting that to be added quickly. But hey, they threw it in a 24/7 playlist right off the bat. Thank you, I love you. I'm glad they're aware of people who want some more fast-paced action. Like, I've been very much looking forward to the rumored Rust and Shipment remakes as well. I know they aren't for everyone. Some people hate the chaotic maps, and I completely understand why. I personally really enjoy that casual grind they provide, so I can tune out, but feel like I'm still always in the action. I don't want to run across the map looking for a fight for a minute, only to die because I wasn't listening for footsteps. So it's cool to see them adding some more variety in map size and style. That raises the question, what if there were a chaos playlist where you could just play 6v6 on all of the gunfight maps? Well, while I would probably play that, it wouldn't be as good as something like Rust or Shipment or even Shoot House. I think the more square map design is much better for that chaos style of gameplay, whereas many of the gunfight maps are very linear. As crazy as it sounds, you can flank in a map like Shipment and Rust. You can go 90 degrees to the left or right. There's a lot more mixing in a square-shaped map. You feel like you have options, whereas I'd say most gunfight maps are designed to be head-on-head. So big teams on those maps sounds like a whole lot of nades back and forth. That'd be a funny event mode, but I really like what they did with Shoot House. Then there's Krovnik Farmland for Ground War. Awesome to see another Ground War map this early. I play a lot of Ground War because of how it tends to feel like a more relaxed grind spot instead of the feeling I get in regular modes. Sweaty, campy death with a chance of Piccadilly. Even though Shoot House is gonna be my new grind spot for a while, I'm excited to have another one of these. Also a pretty flat one, not too big. It's been much easier to find a fight. I like it so far. Of course, I'm aware it is another section of the Verdansk Spec Ops map, just like the City District one, and that's fine with me. I'm sure some people will look at that and say, oh, well, that's lazy, this isn't really new content. Gotta be honest, I don't care if they work smart instead of hard. I mean, they worked hard to make the map in the first place. I'm down for chopping out parts of maps if it gives us more playable content. Chop off parts of the 10v10 maps too while you're at it. Maybe the other elephant in the room is that obviously they've had this content planned and prepared well in advance, which can attract the criticism of cut content. Why wasn't this included at launch instead of being trickled in? How dare they? Well, there's a debate to be had there. I think there's a fine line for what is acceptable. First of all, this isn't as egregious as cutting content and then selling it as DLC. This is all free, so there's that. But yeah, it still doesn't mean that it's okay to give a bare-bones game at launch and trickle in enough over time to make it a full game at the end of the year. So to me, all that matters is that the game has a respectable, normal amount of content at launch, and on the multiplayer side, I don't think the number of maps was a problem. 10 regular maps, 2 big Ground War maps, one being unique, one being from Verdansk, and I believe 7 gunfight maps on top. So the fact that it sounds like we're also getting dozens more trickled in over time for free to keep things interesting, meaning we end up with way more maps than we're used to seeing in COD at no extra cost. Why would I complain about that? On the Spec Ops side is where I think there's a bigger case to be made about cut content, and that's why I expressed my not being very happy about it. Especially with the classic missions, it feels like they launched with nothing there. I'm sure it'll get better over time when there are actual rewards, more of a replay incentive, and more missions are added, and I do mean missions, not the operations, but that doesn't mean it's fine that they launched like that. That is an example of a bare bones mode at launch with none of the replayability that they promised, so it does feel like they cut a ton of that content for the sake of releasing it later. But for multiplayer, I have no problem here. You could also say, well, oh, the game launched with a ton of issues, challenges are falling apart, balance is breaking the game, so they should have been ironing those things out instead of developing post-launch content in advance. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think more ironing out should have been done, but I don't think the team responsible for making maps are the same people who could have fixed those issues. Anyway, it sounds like there's a lot of free content on the way, and I'm not gonna sit here and whine about getting free content. If you're doing that, I mean, come on, let yourself have some fun. Are you trying to not have fun? Then on the side of fixes and balancing, it's no surprise we all knew this was coming. A whole lot of welcome changes, toning down the 725 and the M4, even though they are still very powerful. Claymores seeing the biggest change, I'd say. I think they nailed that, and everything I saw looked like a step in the right direction. I'd say they have their finger on the pulse here, and that makes me very happy. The things that they couldn't address now, they do at least mention, like further spawn tuning and balancing is on the way. Overall, still more attention on the challenge fixes needed for sure, and I really thought they would have ironed out that Trials XP bug and added that back in by now, but fantastic update to be getting a couple weeks into launch, and it really is amazing to see everything coming out at the same time on all platforms. Love it, and Spec Ops still has its issues, but at least it's going to feel more worthwhile weapon XP-wise as you play. So I feel like really rocky start for this game, but I find myself steadily having more fun with it day by day. Shoot House is huge for my enjoyment. I hope that playlist isn't just available for the weekend and for special events. We've also got the season coming in December, and with more updates like this on the way, I'm excited for the future of this game. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.